I feel like females have a harder time putting on upper body mass in general. So the more upper body mass that they could put on might be that competitive edge for them to perform better.
Hello, Wanda. It's my pleasure to have you in Evidence Strong Show. If you could briefly introduce yourself, that would be awesome.
Yeah, hi. My name is Wanda. I am going to be a second-year PhD student at Marquette University in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. My undergraduate degree is in engineering, so really heavy in the math and the physics. So I wanted to continue on that side of things when I kind of shifted my interest towards sport and exercise. So did my master's degree at Wanda University in sports biomechanics, worked in industry for a little bit, and then had the opportunity to come to Marquette to work under Dr. Kipp in sports biomechanics with Team USA and like weightlifting research. So things just kind of worked out, and so here I am continuing my education.
You are a weightlifter yourself, aren't you?
I am, yeah. I started with CrossFit like most weightlifters. Wasn't really interested, but wanted to continue weightlifting. So when I started my master's program, everyone in the UK chooses like a sports club to join. So I wanted to try weightlifting. So tried that with one of my flatmates, who's one of my good friends, and just really enjoyed my experience there. And then when it came to like my master's dissertation project, just kind of was a little selfish and wanted to see what I can do to be better at weightlifting. So did my research project on weightlifting for selfish reasons to see like what can I do. And then so that's kind of what got me into the weightlifting research side of things.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so today we're talking about the paper you presented at a conference lately. I asked you whether you will come and talk about it, and you said yes, which is amazing. Okay, the paper we're talking about today is Influence of Lean Body Mass Distribution on Ground Reaction Force and Snatch Performance in Male and Female Weightlifters.
Yeah.
Who are the participants of the study, how many, and what have been done?
This was the data that was included in this paper, or this abstract, had 18 weightlifters. So the athletes that came to camp that we hosted in 2022, 2023, but those that came in 24, their data was not included. So those that were just recently here have not yet added them to the pool of data yet. So I'm interested to see how the data might shift, or our conclusions might shift. But yeah, 18 weightlifters, a third of them were male. So 6 male, 12 female. So it is a little skewed, but we just kind of grouped them together. Everyone came in, they did a fasted DEXA scan. So didn't eat. And then, well, they were here for quite a few days. So like one of the days they had like the DEXA scan prior to them coming to train with us. Yeah.
So these athletes who come to the camps, who were in the camp 22, 2023, were international elite weightlifters.
Yeah. So they're everyone that is under the stipend program with Team USA. So those that are part of the stipend program, they were invited to come. It was their choice and their coach's choice whether or not they wanted to come or not.
Okay. Yeah. So the data were collected specifically in SNATCH and DEXA scan data for body composition.
Yeah. So when they come, it's almost like a competition style. So they come, they do their DEXA scan either like that morning or like a previous day or another day. And then they work on their snatches first. So increasing bar, there's like a bunch of them. So if it's like 6 girls, they would go kind of like competition style, work up to their heaviest snatch between 85 to 100%. But whatever they made that day based on like their coach or whatever, like Mike Gattone wanted them to try to aim for. That's kind of what I use as like their best snatch of the day. And then they also repeated the same thing for the clean and jerk, but for the purpose of this abstract, I only analyzed the snatches. And then we also have the force plates in the platforms that they used at like our training facility. And then we use that data as well.
So heavy snatch, between 85 to 100%.
I took their best snatch and then the DEXA scan result and then the ground reaction forces. Mm-hmm. So I kind of broke up their snatch into like first pull, second pull. So where the forces peak during the first pull and where they peak at the second pull, we extracted those and then put that into our database. So those metrics as well, or those parameters, was also used for analysis.
So are you saying that you took ground reaction for peak force for first pull and for the second pull as your data points, and the heaviest snatch in kilograms, or did you scale somehow to the body weight? Or
everything was scaled or normalized to body weight. So their best snatch was scaled to body weight, their peak ground reaction forces were scaled to body weight, and then also their lean mass was also scaled to body weight. So like let's say their upper body trunk was 40 kilos, kilos and it's like 100, they weigh 100 kilos, it was just scaled as like 40% was upper body mass.
All right. So what have you found?
So at the group level, it's both the legs and the upper body lean mass contribute to snatch performance.
But let's be clear, the more lean body mass or in general, so upper and lower body, the higher the snatch performance.
Yeah. So ideally, so the purpose of like the abstract was to, okay, we understand that lean body mass is going to contribute to performance, but what's actually more important? Is it going to be the upper body mass or is it going to be the lower body mass? Like, does a coach want to prioritize hypertrophy of the legs or the upper body? So that was kind of like the point of this data analysis, was to like figure out what's actually more important. So at the group level, they both contribute. Upper and lower body mass contribute to snatch, but as we keep going with like looking into how all these variables, their relationship to one another, kind of summarizes to the legs actually contributing the most.
Perfect.
It's a lot easier to discuss the results when there's like a visual. So we kind of developed like a visual model to walk through the results. So it's like lean mass distribution, so like the percentage of like leg or the trunk, and then the peak ground reaction forces to the first and second pull, and then performance of the snatch. So as we go through both, like based on the statistics, both the leg and trunk lean mass are significant factors to performance, which isn't a surprise. But as we keep going, ground reaction forces, both the first and second pull, are also contributors, not a surprise either. But then when we look at how lean mass affects the first pull or the second pull, it's just the legs that have a contributing factor and nothing from the trunk. But as a disclaimer, this is like a smaller sample size. Like I'm curious to see how this might change as we add like those that came to the camp in January, how this might like affect our new results. So based on this model here, we have like a direct mechanism of how the legs are the main contributor to snatch performance by looking at by seeing how the legs affect first pull, second pull, peak ground reaction forces, which therefore affect the snatch. So that's how I concluded that legs are probably the main contributor to improve snatch performance, because it's like a direct like flow, but that's not to like reduce like the effect of the trunk, but it's like a little bit less clear because there's no direct effect as we can see from the legs.
So I think that you measured pulls. Pulls will be affected mostly by leg, less so by the trunk, because there's less stabilizing or there's no catch yet. So it makes sense that in the way you had set up the experiment, the legs will be the biggest contributor, because you are measuring pulls, ground reactions force during the pulls, which are the first phase. So it makes sense.
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of hard to measure anything during the catch or like the turnover because like they're airborne. So really interested to see how all this might change once we start adding like the kinematics of the upper body, or just like overall the body kinematics with the results. So yeah, but this is just based on ground reaction forces during the pull phase of the entire snatch. Does this make sense?
Yeah, it does. Carry on. I'm excited to hear more.
Okay, so yeah, this is at the group level, males and females combined. And then as we were just kind of going through, just like diving a little bit deeper to see like, okay, why could this be? Or like just wanting to see if like there's any differences between male and females. There were. So again, with like males and females, we break it up into the same like visual models. Females, it's the same like beginning start where it's both the legs and the trunk affect the snatch performance, whereas for the males, so the model the regression that we used for the statistics is a stepwise regression. So at first, based on first glance, like p-values of lean mass distribution on snatch performance is not significant for the males, but once we reduce the model based on like the stepwise regression, the legs become a significant contributor. So as we continue down, similar to what we did in like the overall general model for ground reaction forces compared or in the relationship to snatch, it's just a second pull. Whereas that was for females. Whereas for males, it's both the first and second. Looking at how lean mass affects the first pull, it's just the legs for the females, and then for the males, once we reduce the model again, it's just the legs as well. And then for females, looking at how it affects the second pull, it's both legs and trunk. Where it's for males, after we reduce the model, it's just the legs again. So to kind of interpret these results, when you're being coached, the snatch, like pushing with the legs is a common cue that a lot of coaches use, right? So it's really no surprise that the legs are contributing to first pull, second pull, peak ground reaction forces. But then in the female model, we have like this contributing effect of the trunk lean mass for the second pull, which is different from the males, which is something that like, okay, now it's like, oh, there are like gender differences in how like these two lifters these males and females might lift. So it's like we have the association now with the trunk on second pull pull for the females. And then the second pull is now affecting the snatch performance. So it's like how the group model, there's like the full direct effect from the legs into snatch performance. It's now the trunk to snatch performance pipeline for the females. And this is something we've seen in previous literature. So it's like, okay, like this has been seen before, like it's really interesting. So I think like the big question is here now is like, why? So I wonder if that's like the more elite a female weightlifter is, like the more like upper body mass she like accumulates based on like hypertrophy and like training over years and years. And then in the male model, it's not as clear, but it kind of just follows the general trend of the group model. And then kind of some differences in like the kinematic patterns is like something I've seen in previous literature where it's like, hey, during the second pull, males finish with greater, faster knee extension. So like maybe that's why like their legs kind of like are that explosive part, like stronger, bigger legs is why the legs is contributing to their snatch performance. Whereas females, they have greater hip extension patterns. So like maybe they're just using their posterior chain a lot more over and over and over. And that's what's causing the hypertrophy over like years of training. So it's like those little like patterns in how they move that might be causing like these hypertrophic differences, and that we see now also with like their DEXA scans and like how these trends that we might see related to the that's it essentially, how all these little pieces affect one another that kind of sort of now tell the story of like, oh, what is actually might be contributing to like a better snatch.
This is very important because if you think back, so if females and males have indeed different strategies in performing snatch, then maybe we should be teaching or developing them differently.
I think what sets elite weightlifters, like, or like the elite of the elite, like that we're like seeing here is like, okay, greater upper body mass is probably going to be what affects your snatch performance. So like that might be the little thing that might put someone on the world's team or not. But yeah, like all this is like still just maybes, you know, but I wouldn't say like we should train them differently, but I think it'd be interesting to like prioritize. I feel like, or females have a harder time putting on upper body mass in general. So the more upper body mass that they could put on might be that competitive edge for them to perform better.
Okay, so are we ready to move to the take-home messages or some advice that coaches can take from your data?
Yeah, so the take-home message is both trunk and leg lean mass affect snatch performance, but the legs at the group level is probably going to drive the performance the most. So if you're going to just train both males and females equally, like building strong legs is probably the best foundation. And that's something like the foundation of every weightlifting program, you know? So it's like, I feel like coaches don't need to change too much on that other than like knowing now that it's like, oh, it is going to affect like snatch performance. So like we should just keep training legs, getting them strong, getting them big. And then knowing that it's not just for overall strength, but like this could possibly contribute to putting more numbers on an athlete's snatch. And then another take home is that there are differences between how males and females move, and that difference in pattern over time is going to put on more muscle in different parts of their bodies after years and years of training. So that's probably going to be the reason why we see differences on how elite females put on more upper body mass versus males, which is like the legs that kind of drive their performance.
That's an ongoing research. You will bring us more, but this is good to know. Legs, very important. Trunk, very important. Probably more important for females, or the other way, elite females develop in these areas more. So that is like something.
Yeah.
Do you think the abs are important?
Yes, because I mean, you need them to stabilize for like stability. You need your core for everything, especially like, yeah, I think there's something you should not neglect, but I feel like as you snatch, as you squat, as you clean, like they're always engaged. So it's something that you need that for like the strong, like rigidness or performance.
Makes sense. Okay, 2 short questions to finish. The first one is, what is your favorite color?
I like anywhere between teal and aquamarine. So blue, green, green, blue.
Awesome. And the last question, where people can follow your journey in research?
In research, it's biomech.wanda. So BIOMCH.wanda on Instagram, but I'm also on LinkedIn and on Twitter. So you can find me there. I feel like I'm the only Wanda around, so it'd be easy to find me too.
That's a huge advantage. Okay, Wanda, thank you so much for today, and see you next time.
Yeah, thanks.